Did you know that King Henry VIII, the notorious wife-collecting monarch, was a huge fan of bowling? Now that's a strike from history. Yes, indeed. Amidst his well-known obsessions with power, religion, and matrimonial pursuits, Henry VIII, King of England, had quite the passion for the game of bowling. This wasn't your typical 10-pin, neon-lit disco ball kind of bowling we're familiar with today. No, this was lawn bowling, a sport of precision and strategy, considered a luxury in the 16th century. Played on finely manicured greens, it was a game for the upper echelons of society, far removed from the common folk. Henry VIII, despite his reputation for being somewhat of a tyrant, was a man who knew how to enjoy life's finer things, and bowling was right up there on his list. He loved the game so much he even passed laws restricting it to the wealthy, fearing that the working man would waste too much time on the sport instead of tending to his duties. Bowling was more than just a game for the royals. It was a symbol of status, a display of wealth, and a means of socializing with the elite. A royal match was an event filled with pomp, spectacle, and the occasional bit of skullduggery. So next time you're bowling, remember, you're in the company of kings. Just try not to lose your head over a game. Australia, 1932. The enemy, a bunch of flightless birds. Yes, you heard that right. In what can only be described as one of the most bizarre conflicts in history, the Australian military squared off against emus. This wasn't a prank or a misunderstanding, but a genuine military operation known as the Great Emu War. Faced with more than 20,000 emus consuming and trampling their crops, the desperate farmers of Western Australia requested military aid. The government, seeing an opportunity to help the farmers and provide training for their soldiers, agreed. Armed with machine guns, the soldiers were confident of quick victory. But oh boy, were they wrong. The emus proved to be formidable opponents. Their speed, erratic patterns, and the harsh environment of the outback made them difficult targets. And these birds, they were surprisingly resilient. Many took multiple bullets but kept on running. The soldiers tried to herd them into a kill zone, but the emus outsmarted them, splitting into small groups and running in every direction. After a few weeks of this feathery fiasco, the military withdrew. They'd used thousands of rounds of ammunition, but only managed to kill a small fraction of the emus. The public ridicule was immense, and the government decided to withdraw from the war with the birds. So, the next time you underestimate an emu, remember, they've already won a war. High heels, the ultimate fashion statement or a horse-riding necessity? Spoiler alert, it's the latter. Now before you start picturing your favorite cowboy in a pair of stilettos, let's clear the air. High heels were initially designed as functional footwear for men who rode horses. The heel's purpose? To provide stability and a firm grip on the stirrups. In the 15th century, Persian horsemen wore shoes with heels to secure their stance while riding, as the heels would fit snugly into the stirrups. This footwear style gradually made its way to Europe, where it became a symbol of status and masculinity among men. Yes, you heard that right, masculinity. It wasn't until the late 16th century that women started wearing high heels, turning them into a fashion statement. So gentlemen, next time you mock a pair of heels, remember, they were originally made for you. Ever heard of a sticky situation? How about a 2 million-gallon molasses flood? That's right, folks. In the year 1919, the city of Boston experienced a disaster that was as bizarre as it was devastating. A large molasses storage tank, standing over 50 feet tall and 90 feet in diameter, burst without warning. The result? A wave of molasses over 15 feet high that swept through the city streets at an astonishing 35 miles per hour. Now you may be thinking, molasses? That's just a sweet, thick syrup. How bad could it be? Well, let me tell you, it was no laughing matter. The molasses wave was so powerful that it damaged buildings, overturned vehicles, and even knocked a railroad bridge off its foundations. And it wasn't just property that was affected. 21 people lost their lives, and over 100 were injured. The cleanup was, as you can imagine, a sticky affair. It took weeks to remove the molasses from the streets, and even longer to repair the damage. In fact, for decades after the event, locals claimed that on hot summer days, the scent of molasses still lingered in the air. So the next time you're enjoying a molasses cookie, spare a thought for the people of Boston, who were literally caught in a sticky situation. In 1518, Strasbourg was hit with the most rhythmic plague of all time. The symptoms? Uncontrollable dancing. A bizarre episode indeed. History has seen its share of strange occurrences, but the dancing plague of 1518 tops the chart. This wasn't a joyous jig or a celebratory cha-cha, oh no, this was a dance of despair, a dance of death even. In the heart of the Holy Roman Empire, now modern-day France, a woman named Frau Tropea started dancing. She danced through the day, into the night, and then the next day. Odd, you might think, but it gets weirder. Within a week, 34 others had joined her, and by the end of the month, around 400 townsfolk were dancing uncontrollably. This wasn't some coordinated flash mob or a spontaneous street festival. People were dancing themselves to exhaustion and some, tragically, to their death. Heart attacks, strokes, and sheer exhaustion claimed lives in this bizarre event. And the strangest part? No one knows why it happened. Was it stress-induced mass hysteria, a biological anomaly, or perhaps something in the water? The theories are as numerous as they are wild. Doctors of the time, baffled, declared it a natural disease caused by hot blood. But despite their attempts to cure it, including, you guessed it, more dancing, the plague ended as mysteriously as it started. So next time you feel like you can't stop dancing, remember, it could be worse. You could be in 16th century Strasbourg.